Hello, my wonderful brothers and brothers of the Maverick Nation. I am the Director of the Maverick, and now today, it's going to be part 10 of What If Lancer was friends with Vanilla Sands. This is part 10. Now, last time we left off with everyone going back to their respective homes. Only there would be something that would happen. There would be someone who, basically, whenever Izuku saw them inside of their house, Inko would explain, he's here because he had nowhere else to go, basically. And Izuku's like, Mom, are we just going to be letting anyone in? Like, really? And Inko's like, you remember what's been rumored? That he's going to get into the same class as you, even. And Izuku's like, yeah, rumored. That means it's not really true, it's just speculation. And then the skeletal figure would, you know, it was laying on the couch and it would sit up at this remark. And it would say to Izuku, why, what a down day we seem to be having. I guess can't be helped. Well, I guess I can play catch up, can I? And he would just be teleported behind Izuku, and he would have a ketchup bottle, and he would be drinking out of it. And Izuku would really be uncomfortable because of the fact that one of this person's arms, they have it around him, almost like they think they're buds or something, when that's obviously not the case. I mean, like, even Izuku's able to see, like, the looks that Lisk gives this, whoever this person is. Obviously, not exactly a look of someone who, well, it's always been a reason in Izuku's head why he just shouldn't trust this person. I mean, like, if Lisk doesn't trust him, and Lisk has always been, well, at least tried to always be nice to Izuku. So if Lisk doesn't trust him, why should he? And this person is all of a sudden he has his hand over his shoulder. Well, his entire arm actually. And the other one, like hand, and in his hand a ketchup bottle he's drinking away. And Izuku's kinda weirded out about this because that's kinda weird. That's their ketchup. What does he think he's doing? Who does he think he is? And then Inca would indeed explain, not really explain, but more or less would just say, you know, that probably shouldn't drink all the ketchup. And she would tell Izuku the name of this person, that their name is Dark Web Sands, and that they would really like it if they would be able to become friends with Izuku. Just the best of pals. No problems in between each other whatsoever. And Izuku would just be like, Sure. No problems whatsoever. Man, this guy is creepier and creepier every second. Just gets creepier and creepier every second. I mean, what else does he know, or what else does he want? Really, those are the two things I probably want to know the most. Along with why is he even freaking here? I mean, what does this place have that other places don't have? What, the fact that my mom was nice enough to let him? Does he not think anybody else would have that kind of charity? Well, then again, I guess if you're smart enough, you can kind of tell the people around the neighborhood. So is that just it? He was smart enough to tell her that my mom would let him in? But wait, that would that would kind of also like ring a ding ding. That would also kind of make Izuku feel like, this guy might possibly have been watching us. I mean, if he already knows that much, I mean, we could have a stalker here, Mom. We could have a stalker here. And, Dark Web Sands will just look over at Izuku, not moving a single muscle, just moving his highlights over at Izuku, and he would just be like, "Oh, don't worry, friend. Don't worry, pal. I wasn't watching you. And why would I have any reason to do that? Besides, you're already my friends. Friends forever. Best friends forever." And then Izuku's just like, "Oh, so it's this kind of way. What do I do? I don't want to seem crazy. Like, if I try to call up the police or Pro Hero, and with this guy's act, I don't know if they will believe me or not. I hope they would, but I can't risk that chance of me looking crazy to other people. That would give this guy a win." And, well, just whenever Izuku goes out to train, before he does anything else, he'll just go out to, vent some frustrations. And, well, Izuku would start to realize someone was training with them. But they would be using their support item, and it would be training in a very different way. Yes, it would be Dark Web Sands, and he would be hacking away at anything and everything he could find that, he wouldn't get yelled at for, attacking. And so Izuku would eventually just be like, "Dude, what's your problem? Why are you following me?" And that's whenever Dark Web Sans would just be like, "Oh, I just want to be friends." And Izuku's like, "Can't you tell by now? I don't want to be your friend. If Liz doesn't trust you, then why should I trust you? Me and Liz are best friends. And that's whenever Dark Web Sands would say, "You don't know as much about her as I know. If you knew what I know about her, then you wouldn't be so chummy. You might actually want to listen to some of what I have to say." But that's neither here nor there. That's whenever, you know, Dark Web Sans would hear his cell phone start to ring, and then Izuku would realize, dude, your cell phone is ringing, and Dark Web Sans is like, oh, Bakugo accidentally called me instead of calling you. Uh, well, at least that's what it looks like. And so Izuku would pick it up, and it would be true. Bakugo accidentally did call Dark Web Sands instead of calling Izuku. I mean, since they both basically live in the same place, and not much has been really done, that mistake could be made a couple times and no one really raised an eyebrow. Other than how weird it is, just random ass thing happening. But what Bakugo would have to say to Izuku is basically, dude, you need to go over. You need to go over to your house right now. Me and my mom are there. We heard some. We heard some shady shit going on. Some crazy shady shit. Whenever we went in, it was already too late. You need to get over here right now. And you should probably bring over that other guy. For some reason, I actually might think that he could be helpful for something. For once. And so Izuku would basically be like, okay, I'll be right there, Bakugo. Dark Web, basically he would just to like insult him, he'd be like, DW. And Dark Web Sans would be like, he would just take the insult. He would just be like, DW. And he'd be like, what? We gotta go. Apparently something major has happened while we were gone. And by the time they get there, they see all this tape, they see all these police cars, this ambulance, and, well, Mitsuki's crying her freaking eyes out. Bakugo's trying to hold back tears. And, he does indeed look angry, but also sad at Izuku. He's like, why couldn't you have been here? What, what thing better did you have to do than be here so that this wouldn't happen? And Izuku's like, what wouldn't have happened? And then Izuku would just realize the person that they would be sending out of the house, onto the stretcher and the ambulance truck would be his mother. And Izuku would be like, what? When did this happen? And what he did see of his mother's face before, everything was covered up, he saw that her, basically, the part of her face, like her eyes, completely, burnt through like a penance stare. Like, no eyes, just charred circles around, and all the way through to the other end, where you could see, the other side. So, whoever this person was who is responsible for what happened, they are one sick and powerful mofo, if anything. And Izuku's just like, this person, They burned straight through her eyes and all the way out to the other side. But they did more than that. And, Bakugo would be like, yeah, I actually saw most of her body before she was taken away. It's, if you smell any barf, that's my fault. But you can't really blame me, I guess. Or at least I wouldn't blame myself, considering what I did see. I don't exactly want to recall. It was a bloodbath in there, and I think it's going to stay that way for quite some time. And so basically, some police officers, basic law enforcement, just the people that would want to make sure that Izuku was taken care of, basically, they'd be like, does this boy have any other family that, would be able to take him in? And Mitsuki would want to volunteer for this, but that's whenever Dark Web Sands would perk up. And I'll be like, technically, technically, I'm really not sure how okay he's gonna be with this, but. And the person would just say, it doesn't matter how okay he is with it, if it's a way to. And basically, like, they explain all that, like some sort of parental guardianship. And, you know, Dark Web Sims would be like, you don't have anything against me doing the job, do you? And Izuku would, like the people that would be asking all these questions, like, about the whole parental guardianship, they would just be like the police would just be like, you taking care of him? And Dark Web Sans would be like, that's the least I can do for what she did for me in Comadoria. She helped me whenever I wasn't really sure anyone here would. So, as a service to her, as a show of my gratitude, I would like to take Izuku Midoriya in. However, his name would have to be changed, seeing as there are no other Midoriyas around, and he is not old enough, reasons we've been talking about. And basically, the people would be like, changed to what? His last name changed to what? And, Dark Web Sans would just be like, his name. His last name would indeed be Dark Web. He would be Zuku Dark Web. After all, if I am to be his parental guardian, I would at least like to have that luxury. And about everything else, if there is anything else, and will all the people would speak to him about like the fortune that Inko would have left behind, like all the money in her will, and like all the other shit in her will. And because, Hisashi with that overseas job, giving them all that high life. Not too high, but not too low. And, you know, Dark Web Sans he'd be feeling it, Like, he would be hearing about all of this shit and go left in her will, but Izuku would be like, but the will was never like assigned to him, so how would he have any rights? And that's the answer. He wouldn't have any rights to the will. And then the officers would basically just plainly say, he's the only one that can really take care of you, and, your father is over in the States, and, well, basically him getting all the way over there, someone would already have to be taking care of him while Hisashi was taking the trip back. So, really, it doesn't matter about the current state of the will and who gets the money that was stated in the will, because if the will needs to be improvised, basically what they tell Izuku is if the will needs to be improvised in order to, fix things, that's what they'll do. They will improvise that will. And Dark Web Sands could not be happier if he actually understood what happiness was. He would just be, fake smile because all of his emotions are basically fake. He is just there to be there. Really just a cruel soul. And, so basically, you know, the the time in which, after everything was all done, they would want Izuku to have a different place to live. And that not to worry about using any of the money from the will, that they'll pay for the expenses on that, or at least find someone else to do it or whatever, because, it's enough stress on them as it is. Plus, Izuku probably has a lot of stress on him, so worrying about, expenses for his own home, that would just probably destroy the boy. Even worse than he has probably already been destroyed with what's happened to his mother. And, you know, Dark Web Sands would just be like, yes, I do understand that. So, who would it be? What exactly, how are we going to do this whole home thing? And, well, they would basically just say, just to, look for, like, you know, if they find something they like, they inform them, and they'll just pay for all the expenses of, having to pay for the house or whatever. House, apartment, whatever kind of place they're living in. Hell, it could be a mansion. Like, and it's quite clear to the police, actually, that, Dark Web Sands could care less. That Dark Web Sands is just about, doing the bare minimum of what's needed to get, the results. And, he probably isn't even aware that that's what he's doing. Or if he is, he's being very, very sly and cocky about it. And so eventually they would find a place. It would be a place that, well, whenever whenever Dark Web Sins eventually goes over and, points his finger to that thing, like whenever they're looking in the magazines, and he points his finger over to that place. And Izuku can't really, disagree with his choice. I mean, it looks nice enough, but I mean, a lot of other places look nice enough around that, you know, neighborhood. It doesn't really look like a poor neighborhood. And it would be a little bit, you know, from, where Bakugo and Mitsuki live, and, Bakugo's his friend. Well, at least he wants to make Bakugo his friend. But then again, after what Bakugo had said to him, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah, but, Dark Web Sands would also tell Izuku, haven't you heard? This place in particular, we would be neighbors. We would be neighbors with the number two hero and his family. The Endeavor family. And Izuku would be like, wait, what? We would be neighbors with who? And, you know, Dark Web Sins will just be like, too late, beep. just like, call him in and be like, we want to move here. Which is really more of a lie. Like, he wants to move there, Izuku really not interested. And so, yeah, they would have all of the stuff moved. And yes, like Namasa would eventually bring up to Izuku because he would see how destroyed Izuku was, and he would be like, "Don't worry, we'll find the guy who did this. We'll find him." Namasa would indeed care about what Izuku's going through, and well, eventually, whenever they got themselves moved in, Shoto would just be doing his training, and he would realize, wait, someone, they've been doing some weird stuff for that house. Almost like someone's trying to move in. Like someone's trying to be our neighbors. And he would think for a second that he should tell his dad, but then he would also think for a second, no, 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 no. Maybe if I make friends with the neighbors, this could turn out good. You know, Shoto is antisocial in his own right, but if if this helps fix the problem and helps fix the problem faster, you know, Shoto's all right with you know doing what he needs to do, and so he would try to go over and he would see like a little button, and he would press the button, and it would be like a little buzzer button, like bzzz, and it's like you are now entering the dark web residence, and there would just be a speaker, and there would just be a voice, but it would sound like footsteps and then a voice, almost like someone was certain, like a few steps away, so they had to run over in order to get the call. And basically, they would just be like, yes, is someone here for something important? Shoto would just hear another kid. He would be like, name's Shoto Todoroki. I would like to, uh, yeah, and Izuku would hear, the awkwardness in Shoto's voice, and he'd be like, hang out? And Shoto's like, I guess. And, Izuku would be like, okay, just give me 3 2, 1, and then Shoto would hear click, 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 and you're in. Just push, not pull. And Shoto would be like, oh, that's why that's not working. He's like, he was trying to pull, and it's a push gate. Well, from the end that he's coming from. Anyways, so he would just push the gate, and, the door would open, like the gate door thing. The gate would open, and, you know, Shoto, being polite, would indeed close the gate from behind him. And then, like, a message would buzz, like, bzzz, thanks for, you know, he'd just be like, thanks for being polite about that. I always know how, he gets whenever that's not taken care of. Anyways, if you want in, you're going to have to come in through the back entrance. I don't want him seeing you, and I don't know how long it will be till he comes back. He's, you know, he said he was going out for something. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to try him. I don't want to test him. So you should probably come in through the back door. And, well, as Shoto would try to locate the back door, he would hear footsteps growing ever closer to him. And then he would hear, like, a little click, like a click, a clack. And, well, basically, Shoto would be like, he knew how long it was going to take me to get here. And, eventually he would just open the door and it would be like, well, hi. Like I said, I'm Shoto. And Izuku would just be like, Todoroki, yeah, Shoto Todoroki. You're the Endeavor's son. And Shoto's like, hey, something's got you down? And Izuku would just be like, recent events recently, well, have been getting me down a lot. And, then Shoto would just see, like, on a TV screen, like, like, child's, like, parent being, like, a child's parent being murdered, then left to live with suspicious house guest. And Izuku would just be like, suspicious house guest, my ass. More like a home wrecker. I swear that guy brings bad luck wherever he goes. And then he would just notice that Shoto heard all of that, and he would just be like, don't repeat that to him. If he even manages to find you, I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen. But if he does, don't repeat any of that. I really would not like to lose my head. And Shoto would just be like, oh, so he's like my dad. We have something in common. Your dad's an asshole, my dad's an asshole. And Izuku's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I wouldn't exactly call him my dad, but yes, he is an asshole. Our parental figures are both assholes. Not our dads, our parental figures. Besides, if he's an asshole, if he's an asshole towards you, he doesn't deserve to be your dad. Especially with the fact that I've heard about your special half and half ability, ice and fire, though you don't use your fire because of problems that have to do with your family. You believe that your fire side of your half and half quirk is his quirk. Well, that's really sad, Shoto. And Shoto's like, what do you mean it's really sad? And Izuku would be like, well, all of it, really, but, one of the main things being it's really sad because if you did use both sides of your quirk, maybe it would make a good challenge for me and Lisk and Bakugo whenever we got, to UA. But if you're only going to use one side of your half and half quirk, looks like you won't be an actual challenge after all. No disrespect, just hitting you with hard, straight facts. Like the hard, straight facts. I mean, literally. Basically, by doing what you're doing, only using half of your special quirk, that I'm sure anyone would do anything for a quirk like yours. By only using half of it, you're basically walking over to your enemy and telling them to fall onto their own sword. Do you not know how disgraceful, how absolutely insulting that is? I'm sorry getting like this with you, Shoto, but I'm just trying to tell you straight facts and nothing else. You're really messing up by not taking advantage of what you actually do have. Besides, what does it matter if it's his fire or not? You should one-up him by saying that even if it is his fire, that you don't care, because even if it is his fire right now, you're going to do everything in your power to become a hero that can make sure that one day it will be yours. And Shoto would just be like, uh, 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 show him that it's my fire by using his fire? How does that make any sense? And Izuku's like, simple. Just show him that you know how to use his fire. Basically, I could spell it out for you right here. Little Shoto, and there's Big Endeavor. Big Endeavor and Big Shoto got the same fire quirk, or at least that's what Little Shoto thinks. Little Shoto, though, has a big opportunity, an even bigger opportunity than his Pops or his quirk combined. An opportunity to show that even if it is his fire, that he can make it so strong that it wouldn't even matter if it was his fire, because then it wouldn't be, because you would have evolved it past anything that Big Bad Endeavor could do. But if you don't realize sooner or later, if you don't realize your opportunity sooner or later, then that will never happen. And you'll just stay miserable like this. I'm just spitting straight facts. The way I see it, you're really wasting your opportunities, Shoto Todoroki. And Shoto would be like, use my dad's fire even better than he was ever able to use it, to prove that since I did that, that it truly is my fire. I mean, if it's better than Dad's, that means it can't be his. But, uh, uh, and then Izuku would just be like, "Your mother's never around, is she?" And Shoto would just be like, "My mother is in a mental institution because of my father, because of what things that he said." And that's whenever Izuku would just be like, "Unforgivable. Now you have to use your fireside to make that man a wish he never did that. He has no idea how lucky he is to still have someone like that around. I don't have someone like that around. And even though the circumstances may be different, seeing as he's your father and I'm just a kid, well, I can just say that by doing what he did, he's made a very big mistake. Endeavor, one of these days, he's gonna pay for what he's done. It will either be you or someone else who you thought was lost forever. Because I can just feel it in my bones. I just know whenever someone's gonna get their comeuppance. And so Shoto and Izuku would form a very strong bond very early on. Before the even beginning of the first day of UA. And so, when everyone would just go in and have their first day, Izuku would comment, who are they expecting to lock in there? King frickin' Kong? And Shoto would just be like, more like one of the Gargantuas. And Izuku would just be like, that cheesy shit again. And, Shoto would just be like, oh, come on, Izuku, you know that one's a classic. War of our Gargantuas. Brother against brother. And Izuku's like, Shoto, you are freaking weird. Anyways, we better not keep King Kong waiting. Because I'm pretty convinced by now that he's probably gonna be our teacher. If King Kong isn't the answer, then I don't know who else would be. And Shoto's like, probably one of the brothers. And Izuku's just like, will you shut up about that War of the Gargantua shit? And Shoto would be like, just as soon as you shut up about freaking King Kong. And Izuku would be like, hey, it came out before Citizen Kane. King Kong, 1933, before Citizen Kane. Everybody's talking about Citizen Kane in film schools. Like it's just so high and mighty. Whenever King Kong came out before that, and was a story of true love. And Shoto's like, yes, true love on a skyscraper being shot down from said skyscraper, and the damsel in distress barely making it out alive. And it all being the plot for a movie within a movie. Huh. Stupidception. And, Bakugo and Ida would be having their own argument, but it wouldn't be over freaking monster movies. Their entire thing, their entire argument about monster movies, just because how often they hang out. Like, you gotta understand, guys. Shoto and Izuku in this, they're gonna be freaking mans. Shoto is gonna be Izuku's mans, and Izuku is going to be Shoto's mans. They're gonna be each other's mans. They're gonna look out for each other. That's what mans do. And, Izuku would have already informed, Shoto about the fact that he already does indeed have one best friend, and he's trying to make, best friends with Bakugo, or at least somewhat of a friendship. And that's whenever Shoto would kind of just break it down at the molecular level to Izuku why that doesn't make sense at all, and why he just should stop trying. And, Izuku would kind of, after a while of Shoto having to drill it in, he would kind of get to understanding it. And, you know, once, Lisk is brought up into the conversation of things, you know, Lisk being Izuku's bestie, and Shoto being like, I want to meet your bestie, because last time I checked, you and me are besties, like, right? And Izuku would be like, sure. And, like, besties need to unite, like, it would be like, great. And so, like, Shoto would be, like, eagerly anticipating the entire thing, like really wanting to meet Lisk. Like, eager anticipation. And so, whenever he eventually does get the chance, and, like, Izuku points over to where, this person wearing this hoodie, like, over their face. And Shoto would be like, hey there. And Izuku would be like, oh my god, she is going to kill him. And Lisk is just like, the f do you want with me? I want nothing to do with you, so what do you want to do with me? Otherwise, you wouldn't be around me. You know, Lisk is still, sore about the whole possible, effect her thrashing Bakugo around could have had on her friendship with Izuku. And then Shota would just inform her, hey, I'm friends with Izuku, and Izuku told me that you needn't worry about anything. You two are still perfectly fine. And Liz would like to hear it from Izuku, but she doesn't say that to Shoto. She just like goes over to Izuku and is like, your friend over there, wait, did you just follow me? And Shoto would be like, yes, why is that a problem? And basically this would be like, your friend told me that you didn't have a problem with what I did. And Izuku's like, well, now that I know I'll never really be able to be friends with Bakugo, why keep on trying? I'm still not gonna let you kill him. Like you said, you needed someone to set yourself straight. And, well, I guess now you just have two people to set you straight. Because if you're gonna be besties with me, you gotta be besties with Shoto. And Lucy's like, your name is Shoto? And Shoto's like, yeah, Shoto Todoroki. Yeah, Shoto would have a lot better social skills whenever it came to, like, his friends. People he actually trusted, gave a shit about. And so they would basically be like the three musketeers. Like, you know, Izuku, Lisk, and Shoto would just be friends. But, I just thought it would be like, if you came here to make friends, then you're not actually. Like, he would do the whole spiel, and then he would be like, get into your PE clothes, and get out to the field. We're doing quirk assessment. Now, and Izuku would be like, well, I guess that's that. And Lisk would just like get really close to Izuku and would just whisper to him, "I'm really sorry about what happened with your mother, and the fact that you've been having to live with that guy as your parental guardian for so long." And Izuku's like, "Don't be. If it wasn't for the fact that I've had been living with him for so long, I wouldn't have really, you know, gotten in this kind of friendship mode with Shoto." And Shoto's like, he would just be listening in on them, but he wouldn't want to, you know, he wouldn't want to start something. And Lisk and Izuku talking, and eventually, Lisk would have to go into the female, dressing room. But Shoto, seeing as he's the same gender as Izuku, they would both be in the male dressing room, and Kirishima would be like, "Holy shit, you are like ripped as frick." And Izuku's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Ever since I've had to be dealing with Senior Asshole, the skeleton, I've been doing a lot of working out to vent the stress. That was until Shoto came around. Then I kinda had to share shifts. Either that or we were going to be workout partners. And I eventually ended up choosing the latter. I mean, it just made things easier. I mean, you may or may not believe me, but just made things easier in the long run." And Shoto's like, "Yeah, plus, it's actually kind of fun being able to test our limits." And Kirishima would be like, "Both of you guys are ripped AF. What about the girl? What's her deal?" And, Izuku would automatically be like, "The girl, her name is Lisk, and she is my best friend, as long as Shoto is also my best friend. So, if you're going to talk about her respectfully." And Kirishima's just like, "Okay, okay, okay, Jesus." Like, that was just like verbal manslaughter. And, well, Shoto's just like, "Well, that's just another lesson." And Izuku would be like, "What do you mean another lesson?" And Shoto would be like, "Another lesson in how to unleash all that bloodlust you got bottled up in there." And Izuku's just like, "It's only because of him." And Shoto's like, "You say that, but, you know, the way you unleash your bloodlust, it tells a different story altogether. Over me, all together, right now, over me." Freaking love that song. Anyways, whenever it came to the quirk apprehension test, assessment test, whatever the frick test, you know, everyone would pretty much get the same. Ugh, frick. Everyone would get pretty much the same scores in the original except for Liz because Liz didn't get a score in the original because she was not a character in the original. And Liz would just be like, "Okay, let's do this." And her score, she would do this on purpose and more or less on purpose and for another reason, but that reason would only really be able to be picked up on by Izuku, her, and Shoto. The other reason being, the immense amount of bloodlust that Izuku gives off. Like, his bloodlust, like, suppressed her power. Like, just to mess with her. And Lisk is like, ugh. And Shoto was just like, sheesh. How much do you got of vent, Izuku? And Izuku would just be like, oh, vent? I didn't know I was venting anything. And he would just wink at Shoto, and Shoto would be like, nice funny, man. And Lisk would be just like, oh, you two. Well, at least I got in the middle, and between the two of you, so I know I'm not going anywhere. That whole rumor about expulsion, Aizawa tried to trick me into believing that that was actually going to be the case. But I think the look that I gave him pretty much told him that I already knew that that was a bunch of loads of shit. I'm not stupid. I know these things. And Izuku's like, oh, how insightful of you. Of course I would know you would know these things. I mean, you don't exactly hide your feelings. So that's why I decided to vent a little to see just how much I could stabilize the score for all of us. You know, not make it to where you outclass every single last person except for me and Shoto. And Shoto would just be like, oh, so that's why you made it to where she made it in between the two of us. Oh, yes, she wouldn't be stronger or technically weaker than you, and she wouldn't be stronger or technically weaker than me. We're pretty much all in the same ballpark. If she's restrained from using her full extent, and that's what you did. You did exactly that. You kept her from using her full power. And Izuku would be like, you really think that she was planning on using her full power? Actually, I more or less restrained her from going all out in general. If she was going to try to, you know, ring one out, you know, show off, that's whenever I was going to suppress her. And Lisk is like, Izuku, I knew it. And Shoto would just be like, I gotcha. We both got her. Trying to show off. You do know that Izuku will never let you do that unless it's actually necessary. And when has showing off ever been necessary? And Lisk just like, if you weren't besties with Izuku, I would totally be killing you right now. And, well, you Dark Web Sands would just be right there and would just be like, huh, your friends, your besties? Izuku, they're bad influences on you. One of them has an anger issues all the way to the cows come home, and the other one, I just don't like him. Doesn't matter if we're neighbors, I just don't like him. And Izuku would be like, well, sorry, but you're the one who moved into the neighborhood. So I'm gonna try to get whatever friends I can. And that's nothing against you, Shoto. And Shoto's like, no need for you to try to defend yourself. I know if you have good intentions or bad intentions. I know you don't feel anything bad towards me or Lisk. And Izuku's like, well, isn't that just a great thing? Listen, I don't care, Dark Web Sans. They're my friends, and so you aren't going to be taking them away from me any time soon. And Dark Web would just be like, oh well then, you put this upon, I'm just letting you know this, Izuku. You put this upon yourself and them. As Dark Web Sands would just teleport to their house. And as Izuku would walk towards his house, Shoto lives right next to him, so, you know, they can just do their thing. And Lisk, technically, if there's a fountain, she can just use that to teleport to her world. So, yeah, they're basically walking home together. And, well, before, everyone leaves, the whole thing, Shoto was just he faces Izuku and he's like, if he ever tries to do anything like what my dad has tried to do to our family, to you, if he ever tries to be that way to you, ever, you need to come to me. Because if we're friends, we need to know that we can trust each other and that we can have each other's backs. And so if he ever tries to act that way towards you, you can come to me. Please do. And Izuku would just be like, why? So you can get yourself in trouble? Never mind. And Lisk would just be like, I don't know. I just really don't like that guy, Izuku. And Izuku's like, same here. Seems neither of us like him. And Shoto's already warning me about if he ever tries to get physical or, you know, uppity. Which I really don't want to get him into this, but he, whenever I look at him in the eyes, whenever he says those things, he really doesn't want me to fight this alone. And even though he knows that I have you with me, he still wants to be there. He still wants to be my friend. Even though he's already heard from Dark Web himself that he doesn't like him. Shoto doesn't seem to really care. Shoto just really wants to be my friend, to help me, to be there for me. All things that he never got the luxury of. From what I've heard about his father, Endeavor, and his mother, Ray, and even a former brother he had. What was their name? Toya? Toya Todoroki? They're supposed to be dead, but I have my I find myself having a hard time believing that. Maybe it's just because of the fact that I'm friends with you, and you really have shown that there are some people out there that are a lot stronger than others would think. So, I just don't know if I can believe that Toya's actually gone. I believe he's somewhere, and that Toya is going to be the one to make Endeavor pay. And that's what he's planning. Whoever he's planning it with, if he is planning it with anyone, well, that would be the smart thing to do. Anyways, I'm just, I, I don't know how to feel anymore, Lisk. And this would just be like, just be you. That's what Shota would want. That's what I would want. That's what we would both want for you. For you to just stay yourself, and not change for anyone. Not even us. And after Izuku would hear that part of the conversation, he'd be like, not even you guys? And Lisk is like, from what I know about friendship, friends like that aren't actually your friends. If they need you to change for them, then they aren't doing enough for you already. It's a mutual thing. You have to work together in order for it to work out. There can't just be one change. They both have to be willing to make a sacrifice. And so, if we were to ask you to change for us, and not be willing to change for ourselves, well, I think you already know by now. Izuku would be like, well then, I won't change for anyone. At least not in a negative way. As much as you may or may not want to believe that. What I'm about to do, I don't think I'll ever be able to come back from. What I'm about to do is absolutely freaking insane. But I found a lot of that creeps shit. It's old shit lying around. And a lot of it contains some very interesting things. Some very creepily interesting things, but still interesting. Creepily interesting, but still interesting. Enough for me to do this. Well, I guess there's only one way to know if this would actually work. Well, this is it. Now, spell of the 7 souls and the magical spell that we use to conceal beings away. Azareth, Metrion, Xanthos. Azareth, Metrion, Xanthos. Azareth, Metrion, Xanthos! And then all of a sudden, just a big bright light would come out of nowhere. And whenever Izuku would wake up, he would start to feel weird. And once he finally, got a mirror, he would realize, I did it. Well, now, it all matters the soul that came to my aid. I don't think souls in this world work the same as those souls. So, whichever soul came to my aid from there, it'd be nice to know. And then he would just hear a voice. What? Uh, Azrael? Wait, no, you're not Azrael. Did, did we die again? Did did they reset the timeline again? Damn it, how many times are they gonna do that? I'm really getting tired of this. Letting them have the control that they want. I'm really getting tired of being pushed around. And then Izuku would just state, oh, then this is just gonna be the most perfect relationship. You're right, Red Soul. And then the soul would just turn to face Izuku. And you, looks like you just turned yourself into a skeleton. It seems you weren't, seeing as you turned yourself into a skeleton, you still have your human attributes. Which would mean that if I were to bind myself to you, or the other way around, is that why you summoned me? Azarath, Metreon, Xanthos, all of that, yada yada. And Izuku's like, that was the only one I really know at the time, so just deal with it. And the Red Soul would say, fine, but that's because if I don't, I'll just be stuck in hell again. Not that I like being manipulated by someone else again, but at least it's better than, well, just never mind. Like you would care. And Izuku would be like, oh, very presumptuous of you. Let's see, how many times have you died? And the Red Soul would just be like, wait, you have that power already? And Izuku would be like, oh, that's a lot of times for someone to die. Oh, you really do have a very persistent soul. Hmm. And with a soul like that Dark Web Stands guy, he's either gonna die or he's going to leave me alone. And Chara would just be like, so, some Sansy smiley trash bag guy? The Red Soul's just like, so some sleazy smiley trash bag guy has gotten you down in the glumps. And so you summon me forth inside of you to use as your way to actually beating him. And considering the fact that you also turned yourself into a skeleton in doing this, what do you think is going to happen then? How are you going to explain that? And Izuku would be like, I don't know. But what I do know is you shouldn't be too unfamiliar with this. And then they would just show a knife. And the Red Soul would just be like, that one's not a toy. You're serious about this. Well then, let's play. And Izuku would basically just be like, not yet. I want to wait until he's nice and comfortable. Late at night, we'll strike then, whenever he least expects us. And eventually it does come that time, and, the Red Soul wakes Izuku up, and Izuku's like, oh yeah, that's right. Well then, let's do this. And so Izuku would come up to the door to, Dark Web Sans' room. He would slowly creak it open as the, basic image of the Red Soul would kind of take out any of the light that would be coming through the door normally. And so, you know, Izuku would be able to do this really easily. Now you die. Now you die. And the Red Soul would just be like, I wonder how long it's going to take for the effects to kick in. LV, EXP, I wonder what it's going to feel like whenever they finally realize what they've just done. And that's whenever the Red Soul would hear something. Yeah, funny that. The spell that I used, you aren't able to influence me into madness because of it. I summoned you with the correct spell and the correct incantation. And so, anyone I kill, you can't seduce me into your insane rants and raves. And the Red Soul will just be like, damn you. And the Red Soul will just be like, fine, damn it. What do we do next then? And Izuku will just be like, well, I mean, someone's going to want to pick up his body. Or maybe, just maybe, he really is too much of an oddball after all. And then they would soon see that, like, Dark Web Sans' body would start to rip itself apart to, like, pieces and deform into nothingness. And then basically Izuku would be like, oh well, I guess that just proves I'm right. He was never supposed to exist. But for whatever reason, he came into being and also became a measure pain in my ass. And now, well, now, I don't know what I'm going to do. That is, unless Endeavor's willing to, you know, enter another one into the family. And the Red Soul's just like, you don't mean. And it would just be a phone call, and it would just be like, yeah, it's totally like he totally just disappeared. And from what it looks like he got murdered or something. And, like the whole scene would just been done over, and it would just be like, kid, I don't know what you're talking about, like murder scene, but okay then, like, and he would actually get to choose where he went, and you know, Endeavor wouldn't really mind this. I mean, the only one who really had a problem with him hanging around with Shoto, like Izuku hanging around with Shoto, was Dark Web Sands. And, well, Endeavor would actually think, my boy, using his fire quirk, the fire, our fire, you getting him to do this. And, both Izuku and Shoto would keep it a secret about everything that they said to each other about why he's actually using the fire quirk, his fire sight. And, well, yeah, basically that's how that would be for then on. And as for Lisk, well, she would just have, gotten the news of what had happened, and, with all of the changes to Izuku's, like, it's, like appearance, like having to do with some sort of, like, failed magical spell. He read it off, and it blew up in his face, changed the way he looked. That's not exactly wrong, but he's not exactly saying it in, like, the reasons, like, how it actually happened and why it actually happened. And he's not actually mentioning the part about the soul. And the whole Azarath mentioning on Zenthos. And, well, yeah. Well, you know, Izuku is now Izuku Todoroki, and, Shoto being on Shoto, like Izuku and Shoto would just be even closer than ever now. And Lisk, you know, like him and Lisk would still be friends, like they'd be even better friends. And so, like, Shoto would also get a better chance to actually be even better friends with Lisk. Because, Lisk, like, there would be a lot of weight off their shoulders, like, with, like, Dark Web Sands gone. That was what was causing most of the problems. Because Dark Web Sands is he's just not good news for anybody. But then again, that would mean that someone would have to be transferred into Class 1A because they would be short a class member. Because, Dark Web Sands would be attending, and since he's no longer alive, well, someone would have to be pulled into 1A. And as for that in particular person, I want to ship them with somebody who's already in Class 1A. I'm not going to say who, but if you guys in the comments section can guess like who it is I'm gonna ship them with, and who it is that I'm gonna put in class 1A so they can be shipped with that person. If you guys can guess who the person is and who I'm gonna put into class 1A from class 1B or whatever class, if you guys can guess both of those things, that would be freaking great. Just even participating, even if you don't get the right answer, I'm not gonna shame you for it. I mean, it's not like anybody can read my mind. So, but like, if you guys were to get the right answer, like, maybe a shout out. I mean, I think that would be deserved being able to pull that off. Like, getting both right. That's like only if you get both right. I'd like the fact that you at least got one of them right, but if you got both right, that's the person I would shout out. So, just on the off chance that somebody somehow manages to do it, I'm just saying. Anyways, Alan's the United Offices because Dark Star Mavericks OUT out of here. Ya boys, like, favorite, subscribe, and click that little bell. Bye.